Can you maybe describe for us the day that you showed Miss P? Like approaching Westminster, what were your thoughts coming into Westminster? What was it like in the breed, in the group? And then, maybe even best in show, if you could just tell us that story, because, there's so much that goes into that win.
Oh, for sure. Well, she was the first dog I ever campaigned in America. I had shown up for circuits and then gone home, but she was the first dog I ever showed all year long, and she ended up top hound, and she won the what I guess they don't call it the Quaker Oats anymore. They forget what they call it now. So it was a very exciting year, and Westminster was going to be your last show, no matter what. And coming up to it, any of those big shows where you think you have a chance to do well, things always start to go wrong, or you overthink things. And one day I remember I was coming, we had the specialties, the setter specialties right before the garden, and I had Miss P with me because she never left never left my side basically. But she was lame for 2 days, 3 days before the garden. I couldn't get her sound. She was so reckless, and she would play with the big dogs that she always hurt her shoulder. And I was freaking out. So by the time the garden came, I had my girls that were working for it. They would carry her in lots of crate time, and she was so used to a regimented exercise that she was getting pent up where she was not herself, because she's usually, even at dog shows, I would either I would walk her forever or the girls would walk her just to stretch her out, and she was not getting that because I was so worried about her shoulder. But the shoulder was fine, and she the day before the garden she seemed fine. But I was still panicking. Everybody at the Irish Setter Specialties were all trying to talk me off a ledge, so to speak. And then the day of the garden, I took her in the breed ring, and it was Adam, Alan Odom was doing it, and she was showing pretty well. But Alan had never really done much for her, so I wasn't really convinced about the breed. And actually, Alan put a dog ahead of her and was about to take them around and say best of variety, and he changed his mind and said, I want to see these two go around together by themselves again. And then she ended up being victorious. But she was this close to losing the braid that year. Like I would thought we were losing when he said, "Put this bitch up front. Let's have the class round." I thought, "Well, that's it. Pack your stuff, guys. Let's go home." So, and then we had Betty Ann was doing the group, and she had always been a big fan, but I hadn't shown to her a lot, so I wasn't sure, because the Bloodhound was very popular that year as well, and she had done well for that dog, and he'd gone back and forth. When we won that group, Adam Bernardin, who was my assistant for 8 years, he was so excited. And we just talked. I used to always say to him, no mistakes, no mistakes. Make sure if you're going to make a mistake, make it in your head. So I always made my assistants or my students replay or play out the class in their head before they go in the class themselves. And I always said, if you're going to make a mistake, make it in your head. So when you walk in the ring, you've already made the mistake, you're not going to make it. So all day long, Adam was saying, no mistakes, no mistakes, no mistakes. And we were in the holding area for best in show. And oh, I missed a story. After the group win, I was walking into where they interview after the group, and Sue Forsyth yelled at me, and she said I had to call mom. And so I called Janie, and she yelled at me and told me I went too fast down the back. And then George, the same thing. George called me and told me that I wasn't thinking on my feet and I was going too fast. So they were probably right. When I watched the video, I think, oh yeah, maybe I did hurry myself a little much. But then the next day, I told Adam, I said, no mistakes. So we worked on no mistakes, no mistakes, and it just seemed to work out for us. I slowed myself down in my head. George always taught me to think in slow motion when I was in the ring, to go half speed, and it really does work. It really, if you take your speed and cut it in half, because of your adrenaline, it's probably the right speed. So that's what I've always done. That's what I've always taught too.